Really nailed it.
It was a big joke. The whole idea was that I failed at all these proposals because I was proposing in the way that I wanted.
We're back with part 2 of our exclusive interview with Adam Mansbach, and there's still an incredible amount of drama and behind-the-scenes tension to unpack. From the now heavily discussed moment where Ryan Reynolds allegedly confronted Justin Baldoni, to the controversy surrounding the infamous doctor scene. This conversation dives deep into the claims, rumors, and accusations that have completely taken over social media. A lot of people online have already picked sides, but Adam says there's a major difference between internet speculation and what actually happened on set. According to him, many details have been exaggerated, twisted, or framed in ways that created a much darker narrative than reality. Throughout the interview, Adam attempts to clarify the events from his own first-hand perspective while also explaining how shocking it's been to suddenly become part of such a massive public controversy. Welcome back to Popcorn Planet. I'm Andy Senior. Before jumping into the details, Andy reminds viewers that this is a continuation of part 1 and says the earlier conversation already covered how disappointing this entire situation has been for fans who've once admired everyone involved. Andy specifically admits that, as someone who genuinely enjoyed Ryan Reynolds' work for years, watching all of this unfold has been frustrating. He says that revisiting Deadpool and Wolverine now feels different, because certain jokes and character choices no longer come across as harmless comedy. In particular, Andy talks about the Nicepool character and how, in hindsight, it feels less like playful satire and more like a targeted jab. He explains that the issue isn't simply making jokes, it's the possibility that a blockbuster film was used to publicly mock someone during a real-life conflict. To him, that changes the entire tone of the humor and leaves a bad taste for viewers who just wanted to enjoy the movie. And he goes even further, saying it almost feels like the audience unknowingly became part of the bullying. What once seemed clever or funny now feels petty and overly personal. He criticizes the situation as an example of talented people wasting creativity on public humiliation rather than storytelling. Adam agrees that it bothered him deeply, especially because of his personal friendship with Justin Baldoni and his own involvement in the project. Still, he admits that at first he didn't fully buy into the internet theories. When he initially watched the film, he tried to see the character as just another exaggerated Deadpool joke rather than a direct attack. Because the franchise is known for sarcasm, parody, and over-the-top humor, he didn't immediately jump to conclusions. However, as more people pointed out the similarities, Adam says it became harder to dismiss. The hairstyle, the male feminist image, and certain personality traits started feeling too specific to ignore. While he stopped short of saying it was an exact copy of Justin Baldoni, he clearly believes there were deliberate references included. What disturbed him most wasn't necessarily the joke itself, but the scale of it. He explains that using a giant Hollywood platform and blockbuster film to take personal shots at someone feels excessive and unnecessarily cruel. Adam even says there's something strangely impressive about the amount of effort that appeared to go into mocking another person publicly, though he says that admiration is obviously sarcastic. The conversation then shifts toward Blake Lively and the now infamous doctor scene controversy that sparked a huge wave of online debate. Andy points out how disturbing the accusations sounded when people first read them online. The descriptions painted a graphic and uncomfortable picture, leading many viewers to believe something highly inappropriate happened during filming. Adam immediately pushes back against those claims and says the way the situation was described publicly was completely misleading. According to him, the allegations exaggerated the scene in a way that made it sound creepy, invasive, and intentionally inappropriate when that was not the reality on set at all. Adam says he was especially frustrated because people online instantly judged him without even knowing who he was. He recalls how insulting it felt to see strangers describing him as some random frat guy creep when he is actually a professionally trained actor with years of serious work behind him. He points out that he has extensive acting experience, stage training, Shakespeare performances, and award-winning work in his background. Eventually, some internet users began researching him and realized he wasn't just some unqualified extra randomly placed into the scene. Adam jokes that he may have even had more acting credentials than some others involved in the production, using humor to soften the tension while still making his frustration clear. Despite the jokes, though, Adam emphasizes that the accusations genuinely affected him. He explains that once a disturbing narrative spreads online, it becomes almost impossible to fully erase, even if the facts later come out. That's one of the reasons he wanted to speak openly about the situation instead of letting internet rumors define the story permanently. He also reflects on how emotionally complicated the entire situation has become for him because, before all of this drama, he truly admired Blake Lively's work as an actress. He says she brought strong energy, charisma, and generosity into scenes, and he respected many of the creative choices she made on screen. That's part of what makes the controversy so disappointing for him personally. Adam ultimately says that the hardest part now is separating the performances from the public behavior and controversy surrounding the people involved. Watching old performances no longer feels the same because the off-screen drama has completely changed the context for many fans. Even so, he insists his criticism is not coming from hatred or bitterness. Instead, he says he honestly feels sorry for Blake because the situation has spiraled into something messy, public, and deeply damaging for everyone connected to it. Adam continues by saying that when he says he feels sorry for Blake Lively, he doesn't mean because of her fame, money, or power. He explains that he genuinely means it on a human level because he cannot imagine what it must feel like to publicly say the things she said and then have the entire internet dissect every detail afterward. According to Adam, the situation has become so extreme and emotionally charged that it's difficult to even process how everyone involved ended up here. He insists that despite all the anger and frustration surrounding the controversy, he still tries to view Blake as a person rather than simply a celebrity caught in internet drama. At that point, Andy jumps in to revisit the controversial doctor scene allegations in greater detail. He references Blake's description of the set, where she allegedly claimed her legs were spread in stirrups, with only minimal covering while non-essential crew members and visitors were supposedly present. The way the situation was described publicly made it sound chaotic, humiliating, and deeply unprofessional. Andy points out how shocking those accusations sounded when they first surfaced online, especially because they painted a picture of a crowded room with unnecessary people watching an intimate scene being filmed. Before Andy can fully finish reading the allegations, Adam interrupts with sarcasm, joking that technically everyone is always covered by a small piece of fabric if clothing is defined that way. His point is that the wording itself was designed to sound more provocative and disturbing than the reality of the situation. Adam strongly pushes back against the idea that the set was careless or unsafe, emphasizing that this was a massive Sony-backed production staffed by experienced union professionals who had spent decades working in film and television. He says the idea that veteran crew members would casually allow an inappropriate environment to exist on set is absurd to him. Adam then carefully explains what the filming environment was actually like. According to him, the set was completely controlled and closed off, with no random people wandering through or unnecessary spectators standing around. He specifically addresses the rumor involving Steve Sarowitz, clarifying that Sarowitz was not even present during the filming of the actual scene. Adam says he and Justin later joked about Steve missing the moment entirely, directly contradicting the online narrative that he was supposedly sitting nearby watching the scene unfold. Adam stresses that the room only contained essential personnel, the actors involved, and the necessary crew members required to film the sequence safely and professionally. He goes on to explain that his own role in the scene has also been wildly distorted online. Adam says he was holding a live baby during much of the filming and was physically positioned farther away from Blake than in real life. OBGYN would even legally be allowed to stand during an actual birth. He humorously remarks that for the scene to resemble the accusations being made, Blake would have had to launch the baby at velocity for him to catch it, emphasizing how exaggerated the public descriptions became. Adam repeatedly reminds viewers that filmmaking is built on camera angles, staging, choreography, and illusion. Scenes are designed to look real without actually placing actors in compromising situations. He then describes the extensive wardrobe and prosthetic work involved in the sequence. According to Adam, Blake was not exposed the way many people imagined after reading the allegations. He explains that she was wearing layers of wardrobe beneath the hospital gown, including black bicycle shorts and additional undergarments underneath the costume. On top of that, she was fitted with a large custom prosthetic pregnancy belly that wrapped securely around her torso with straps and specialized costume materials. Adam says the prosthetic itself reportedly cost tens of thousands of dollars because it had been specially designed for the production. He points out that viewers only saw carefully framed camera shots and had no understanding of the multiple costume layers hidden underneath. Adam also emphasizes that every movement in the scene was discussed and choreographed ahead of time, with Blake fully involved in the process. He says the emotional beats, hand placements, and character interactions were all planned collaboratively as part of the acting process. According to him, Blake was actually the most powerful person in the room, the lead actress, top-billed star, and someone who had inserted herself into the production side of the film as well. Adam claims Justin constantly checked in with her creatively and artistically throughout filming, often prioritizing her comfort and opinions above everything else. As the conversation continues, Adam explains why he was personally invited to participate in the scene. He reveals that Justin texted him directly from the production office, asking him to play the delivery room doctor because it was an emotionally important scene and Justin wanted someone he trusted there for support. Adam says those messages were later included in subpoena materials, which he believes explains why Blake's side rarely addressed the specifics publicly. According to Adam, the texts simply showed two close friends supporting each other during a stressful production rather than anything inappropriate or exploitative. Adam becomes visibly emotional while describing how painful it was to later hear the experience characterized as humiliating or predatory. He insists he was never there for attention, personal gain, or some celebrity cameo moment. In reality, he says he only had 2 lines in the scene before much of it was eventually cut into a montage. Anyway, for him, the experience was about supporting a close friend during one of the biggest professional moments of his life. Adam says that in their circle, showing up for each other emotionally and creatively is simply what friendship looks like. He then vividly describes the actual mechanics of filming the birth scene itself. According to Adam, the baby used in the sequence was covered with makeup effects designed to simulate a realistic delivery, and his job was essentially to help and create the illusion for the camera. He explains that he would lift the baby from beneath a frame in a carefully choreographed motion to make it appear as though Blake's character had just given birth. Adam stresses once again that filmmaking is full of these technical tricks and staged camera movements, none of which reflected the disturbing version of events that later circulated online. Finally, Adam points out that because a real baby was being used during filming, the infant's parents were also present in the room the entire time to monitor everything and ensure their child was safe and comfortable. He says productions involving babies are heavily supervised and tightly controlled, making the idea of some reckless or exploitative environment even harder for him to understand. To Adam, the entire sequence was handled professionally, collaboratively, and safely from beginning to end, which is